Welcome to the Mom Owned and Operated Podcast, the podcast about moms and for moms, where we have candid conversations about running a business, raising a family, and remembering ourselves. I'm your host, Rita Suzanne, a single mom of four, digital strategist, and provider of no-nonsense business strategies and tactics. Hi, this is Rita Suzanne, and today I have my guest, Tammy, with me. Tammy, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell everyone about you, your family, and your business.
Hi, Rita. Thanks for having me on. My name is Tammy Trenta. I'm a certified financial planner. I've been in the industry for 26 years. I am married. I live in Los Angeles, and I have a 5-year-old son named Jack.
Yes. And what do you do what's your business? Tell us all about that.
So I own a wealth management firm called Family Financial. And the goal of the firm is to help business owners keep more of what they earn. The model is based on what I would call a family office model. And a lot of people don't know what that is, but it essentially combines investments, tax, legal, and everything else all into one. So it's a very holistic approach to delivering financial advice for people.
And who do you love working with the most? Like, do you have a target audience? Like, who is your favorite type of client to work with?
Well, my favorite clients are business owners that are trailblazers. They're busy, they're fun, they motivate me, they're young. I get a charge from working with those kinds of people.
And what made you decide to start your own firm? Because I remember us talking, and there were some things that you were saying that really motivated you to just take that leap and go out on your own.
Well, to be honest, Rita, our financial industry in the U.S. is severely flawed. And what I mean by that is when we all start in the business, the first license that you're supposed to obtain is the Series 7, and it allows you to buy and sell stocks. And oftentimes, someone just starting out their first job is going to be with like a big firm, like a JP Morgan or a Morgan Stanley, or even a Wells Fargo, because now the banks are in the brokerage business. And 90% of our industry is they operate under a broker model, meaning that, if you're my client, my job is to sell you something where I'm going to make a commission. And that is not common in other countries. For some reason, it's the predominant way of managing someone's financials in the US. And so when we all start there, you learn things about that model. And you start to feel like, am I doing this because it's the best thing for the client, or are my sales targets such that I have to hit this goal? Or if I have two things that are equivalent, which one puts more money in my pocket? And so that never felt right to me. Once a few years into the business, I decided to get my MBA in finance and also my CFP designation, which is Certified Financial Planner. And my goal was really to help people from a planning perspective, and so I would continue doing that under different models. And I remember one day I was working in the Beverly Hills office at a very well-known financial institution, and was told by the managing director that we, as a firm, make more money on our proprietary funds, and we have an accountability to our shareholders to sell the proprietary funds. And I just kind of was turned off by that whole thing. So that forced me to look outside of the broker model and to go into the independent space. In the independent space, in the financial industry, I would say about 10% in the independent space. Well, 10% of the industry is in the independent space. They're called investment advisor representatives or registered investment advisors. We call them RIAs. And in that group, you get independent advice. So you don't have an investment bank, you're not pitching stocks, you're not pitching proprietary funds. Now you can elect to affiliate with a broker dealer and sell commission products. And it's unfortunate that about 90% of that independent industry, in fact, does that. So there's this tiny sliver of independent advisors who don't have conflict of interest, and they're called fee-only advisors. And that is the space that I'm in. So that is the space that I'm in because I want to be in, and I never want to feel like I have anything that prevents me from delivering advice that is not in the absolute best interests of my clients. Now, beyond that, in working, like I said, I've been with 26 years in the business, you just kind of learn things. And as I've evolved, I started to feel that everything I know, I can help people with, but my vision, and maybe I should just take a step back. As a financial planner, your job is to put people on a path to wealth accumulation. Our job is to get them from A to B. Mm-hmm. Where are you now? What are your goals? Where do you want to be 5-10 years from now? And how can we help you get there? And there's many paths that you can take, but really the best path is the most efficient one, mm-hmm. The one that saves you unnecessary fees, unnecessary money, and the one that can incorporate all other aspects of your life. So, for example, if I want to retire, I don't even use the word retirement. I use financial independence because retirement seems like an old person. But if I use the word financial independence, when do I want to achieve financial independence? If that's age 60, then if I'm on a savings track to retire at age 60, and then I decide to have a child, and now I'm diverting my income into an education savings fund, that might compromise my retirement goal or my financial independence goal. Mm-hmm. And so everything is a trade-off. And so we have to balance all of those sets of trade-offs and move them all in the same direction. As a planner, I've always felt that it is critical to collaborate with one's tax preparer or tax advisor. And most clients that I've come across have a tax preparer, but they don't have a tax planner. And there's a difference between the two. A tax preparer is a historian. They look backwards. A tax planner is someone who looks at where you are and figures out how to optimize you going forward. And there's a very small percentage of the population of tax planners out there. So in trying to join different places and find different homes that align with my vision, I couldn't find a firm that shared those same beliefs. The only way it was going to happen was if I did it. And so I am a tax planner, a certified tax coach. I have a tax preparer on my team that's a CPA. We can also do estate planning. So we have to partner with the legal firm in order to do that. Mm-hmm. But I offer a holistic approach. And that doesn't mean anything because I think that word holistic is even so ambiguous in our industry. Everybody says they're holistic, but are you? Are you just a money manager? Are you doing financial planning? Are you doing business planning? So it's important to really ask those questions if you're seeking someone for holistic advice.
So
I guess one of my questions that popped up while I was listening to you is, do you find that people come to you when they have reached a certain level of achievement and or success, or are they coming to you maybe from they have some debt and they want to get out of debt? Like, what level of financial independence are people coming to you at? Like, where are they in their journey typically?
Yeah. Well, quite candidly, my clients are high achieving business owners. They're probably paying six figures in income taxes because those are the clients that I can really help the most. I can help them keep more of what they earn and help them create personal wealth faster. That said, between you and I think it is so critical that people get advice when they're just starting out, or maybe they do have debt. And, part of that, I think, is, it could be bad luck, but also our society doesn't teach financial literacy, doesn't teach it in schools. It doesn't. And so that's something that I think could really make a difference. But beyond that, people that are just starting out, whether they're just out of college and wanting to start a business, or they're a mom that wants to start a business, getting that advice is critical. And it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of resources to help people start a business or start investing. There's a lot of free do-it-yourself tools, right, which is, to me, a blessing and a curse, because if you don't know what you're doing, you can make some, pretty questionable decisions. So, I'm in the process of putting together some online curriculum that can help people that are just starting out, like that it's an affordable entry point that can, whether they're starting a business, that can avail themselves of just the things that I have learned over the 26 years, and can maybe, if I can prevent other people from making some of the mistakes than I did, then, I would consider that a success.
I love that. And I think that it's really important for, to empower other women to get to the point where they can actually build their financial independence, even whether they are single with kids. Oftentimes it becomes more challenging, like you mentioned, when we introduce other factors, little people in our lives, because then we have to account for them. And I think that oftentimes, like, our financial independence and or like retirement just becomes an afterthought. And it's like, I think I mentioned this to you before, that when I started my business 8 years ago, all my insurance and everything was under my then husband at the time. And once we got divorced, it really wasn't something that I was thinking about, because I was just basically trying to survive. Right. And so, but it then became important to me as I realized, like, I'm not covered. I have, nothing. And I think a lot of times that we are in that position where it's like, well, once I get successful, I'll start doing these things. And so I think that it would be great for you to come out with some type of resources to share with other women, moms, people in general, just on how to avoid some of these pitfalls. Do you have any specific tips for moms who are maybe just starting their business that you think are definitely things that they need to maybe look into right now?
Well, I think that the last few years have been a game changer. Society has now really accepted the remote work experience. And I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for moms that are, home with their kids and juggling multiple things. So, I can relate to that. My best advice, and depends on what you want to do, right? So if you had a career doing something and you feel that there's a way to, reignite that or do it on your own, I mean, certainly taking things step by step, determining whether you should incorporate, does it make sense to incorporate? Where is my money best spent? You have to have a plan. You can't just, you can, but I think without having goals, without having, a 1 year, 5 year plan and what type of capital investment that might require, that is probably the most important thing, to think through that business decision. And the reason I say that is, I'll give an example of a client that I had met with. She's the daughter of one of my clients, and she went to a fine arts college. She's an artist. She's talented, and she just wants to do art. And it's a difficult business to just all of a sudden start making money selling art. So I think if you struggle with how am I going to make money, because there's two things to remember. One is, what am I passionate about? And two, is it important for me to make money? Because those are two very different things. I am passionate about fashion, but that's not how I'm going to make my money. And if you can somehow figure out a way to make money pursuing your passion, that is the best. That is the best of both worlds. So what we talked about with my artist client was figuring out a way to be in the art community. She wants to sell art. So, there's something called the power of proximity. I'm not sure if you've heard that term, but you surround yourself with like-minded people. You surround yourself with influential people. You surround yourself with accomplished people. And, if you're art fans, then you support each other. If you're off by yourself, which is hard when you're working from home, right? There's often that feeling of disconnect. But, after my conversation with her, she's like, well, I want to have I said, well, she can go do weddings, but that's not really her passion. That's kind of like, she takes pictures. That's her job. She can make some money doing that. After we talked, we decided where she's living isn't serving her at all. She's living in Iowa, and it's cold most of the year. She can only do so many weddings, so it's not that conducive. So she really liked the idea of moving to Savannah, there's an art community there, and she could meet people, and she wants to invest in real estate where it's like a community of artists. So it's like, okay, that could be a potential way to make money, but let's think through that. All the artists have to be making money for them to pay rent to you. So I think if you are driven by the money and you can put the passion with it, that's great. But if you have the passion but can't figure out how to monetize, you've got to put some thought into it, because going and, if you want to be a fashion designer, going and buying a bunch of product isn't going to help you sell the product. So all those things need to be thought through.
So what are your thoughts then on, you have the passion, but do you think that someone should maybe try diversifying their income routes so that they can maybe see which one pays off the most?
Yes. So I had a client who owned a restaurant, and the way that she learned the restaurant business is she started working in a restaurant. She was a hostess. She became a server. She became a manager. She learned all aspects on someone else's dime, and then had the confidence to start her own business. I mean, similar to my journey, right? I worked for somebody else and then I started my own business. So that oftentimes is the natural progression. I think that that's the smart way to do it. I think oftentimes business owners are impatient and they don't want to work for somebody else. And so if you're coming up with an idea for the first time, then my advice is go, if that's your idea, go work for somebody who's doing it and learn as much as you can.
Right.
If you're starting a business that's unfamiliar and you're just going to launch it, there's too many mistakes and it will have, no matter how smart you are, there are things that they're not going to be able to think about because you just haven't had that life experience.
I agree 100%. So it's interesting. When I started my business, my thought was I was going to teach, but I was like, well, first I need to do this before I can teach anybody anything, because I had been working in corporate for all these years. And so I was doing web design, and then in that process learned all about like online marketing and all of these other things and branding and things that I had never really been exposed to before. And so now that I'm teaching and doing all of these other things, I think to your point is basically you have to do it in order to move to the next level, because now I can diversify with so many different things because I learned about different ways to make money in this industry.
Yeah. And I'll give you a quick example of my own life experience. But, I took about a year or so off in finance because I had this great idea. I was traveling for work and I wanted to create a laptop bag for women that looked like a purse, that was very functional, great for travel. And it was my passion. I loved it. I went to bed. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I had ideas. And so, anybody who's had that experience, it's like you're so excited and there's no way it's not going to work. There's no way. There's nothing in the marketplace. And so, I get a designer, I create prototypes, I invest some money, and, I come up with this beautiful product. And now it's time to sell. And so I did. I launched the business. I got into stores. And I thought to myself, well, most fashion people don't have a financial background, and I do. So I'm going to be so much farther ahead because I already know how to manage the financial aspect of the business. But boy, was I inexperienced on the retail side. And so, many of the companies like Bloomingdale's will say, well, we'll take your inventory, but if it doesn't sell, we want you to take it back. Mm-hmm. Or you sell at Barney's, and Barney's tells you that they're not going to pay you for 6 months. And you're this small business that just can't operate on that level of unpredictability. Or worse, you go overseas to monitor the manufacturing of your product and it's all wrong. You've invested money. Stuff doesn't get delivered on time. And just so many things that, after a year and a half, as passionate as I was, I thought, okay, I know that I am successful in the career that I have. I can do it, but I will never get to the point of, what I've already accomplished in finance. And I love the business. So, I let it run for a good 7 years, and then I donated the remaining product to Dress for Success. But that's, it was something that I learned so much doing, but it cost me. It cost me money. And so, anybody who's branching off, I had a woman who wanted to make belts. Okay. Mm-hmm. Belts are not that hard, right? You can have different sizes. It's easy. I said, why don't you get some prototypes made, go to a show and check the demand, right? Because everyone can think that their idea is the best, but if the consumer doesn't think so, then it's a waste of money. Don't go buy a bunch of product or make a bunch of product without having sales.
Testing. Right.
You got to test the market. Or I had a client who decided she wanted to design shoes. She was a dentist. It's like, I don't want to be a dentist anymore. I want to design shoes. All right, well, let's think through that. We need how many sizes, how many colors, who are our competitors? That business model, in my mind, requires a substantial amount of marketing capital. And, if you don't have financial backing by somebody who's got deep pockets, then, it's likely that it will not turn into what you think. Now, there's always going to be exceptions, but that's where the power of proximity comes in, right?
Yeah, because I always am talking about networking and how important it is. And, that was one of the reasons why I started this podcast too, was really just to connect with other moms. And after being in such a depressive state of mind for so long, and it has helped me. And I've been able to, surround myself with people who are having the same struggles that I have, because, I think, like you said, to your point of, working at home it's isolating. And when there's no other adults around you, then it can be just super, super lonely. And I also find that my non-business friends don't understand what it's like to run a business as well. So we have, people on different spectrums. And I think it's really good to just surround yourself with other people. And for me, sometimes can be challenging because I'm a little bit introverted, but I think it's still important, even for us introverts, to get out and socialize and establish good relationships. I think that one thing that people need to understand when they're networking, though, is like, don't go in there to sell yourself, straight out of the bat. Just, establish a relationship first.
Yeah. That is something that I have learned over time. I remember back in my big banking days having to go and join networking groups. And I was in my late 20s, and some of these people in the networking groups were in their 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
And how much did I really have in common with these people? And, it was challenging. So I had to really force myself to fit in those environments. I was, a woman, which is already, and people, you can just tell when they look at you that they're judging. Oh, how cute. What a sweet kid. And
they don't take you seriously, right?
No. And I wore glasses. I tried so hard to be smart. And it's, I think that's changed quite a bit. That was 30, about 20 years ago. So I think thankfully we've evolved from that, but
well, plus we can do, the virtual networking, which has really just opened up everything and just really expanded our possibilities. Because like you, when I first started my first business, it was all local. Like there was no other option. Right. So
I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to connect with people from all over. I have employees in other states, and I love it. And yes, we work a lot of hours during the day, and it's one Zoom call after another. But, every quarter we take a weekend and we go somewhere and we have fun and we relax. And, maybe we talk about like what our goals are for the upcoming quarter. But it's really important when you have this remote environment to connect with the people on your team beyond just work.
Yeah, I love that. And so that just kind of leads me into the next portion that I want to talk about, which is really about remembering yourself. Like, I know that you just took a nice, relaxing trip. What are you doing in your day to day that's just for you? Because a lot of times, people will, when I ask them about self care, they'll say stuff like, oh, every week I go and get my nails done. But I think that you need to do something every day for yourself, as hard as it is while you're juggling your kids. And it doesn't really mean, going somewhere necessarily.
Yeah, no, that's a great, it's a great piece of advice. So, I mean, I will tell you, when I started my business, I tried so hard to create me time. And by the time tax filing season came, like my brain just felt like scrambled eggs. I was not clear. I was scattered. I was reacting. And so, for me, I did take the time, which was lovely. And I came back with clarity. And one of the things that you always take things from, I didn't realize how bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are in that mode, you're not even aware of it until you step outside. For me, in the morning, just if you can take an hour and do yoga or meditation or breathing techniques, to me, that is, go outside, sit on the ground, like feel the earth. That makes such a big difference. And it's so easy to do.
Right. But
I mean, I guess if you're in Iowa and it's snowing outside, you might not go sit outside, but
that's true.
In California, but taking the breath. So we did a whole class on breath work last week, and I couldn't believe how constricted my breathing was. And now I can breathe. But it really is like, sometimes it's just breathing.
Right.
And if we can just take an hour, quiet, no nothing, just you and your thoughts, and bring a book and journal. There's a great book that I read a few years ago called The Miracle Morning.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I love that concept. Half hour early, maybe an hour early, just to have that time for yourself. And it sets your intentions for the day. So that really works for me. But admittedly, I was not doing it, and now I'm doing it again.
I think, and I think like it worked for me for the longest time as well. The Miracle Morning, I used to get up religiously and do that before my kids woke up, but they were a lot younger then. And now my oldest, he's up with the sun. He is up before me, waiting for me. But I just love the concept of it though, because you can take that half hour, do some stretches, do some journaling, do some, visualization, any of these things. And it's just for you. And I think that sometimes one of the things that I talk about that I will do is I will, lock myself in my room for a little while, because I have 4 kids and their needs are, can be way overwhelming. And so as much as I want to be there for them, I still need to sometimes just take a break and, really, and maybe I'll take a walk, or maybe I'll just come to my room, because I live in Ohio, so I can't enjoy the Southern California sunshine anymore. But when I did live there, it was wonderful. I used to hike every day that was my thing every day. But I think it's just important to start to remember ourselves, because one of the things that I say is like, as a woman, you are one way, but then once, maybe if you have a spouse, then you lose a little bit of yourself. Once you have a business or job, you lose a little bit more. Once you have children, you lose a little bit more of yourself. And so just reconnecting with yourself any way or time that you can, I think it's super vital. And especially that business burnout, like you said, it sneaks up on you because you're just in reactive mode for so long that you don't even realize how exhausted you are until
Yeah,
you stop.
so true. I mean, I have this thing I say to myself, just live deliberately.
Mhm.
And what that means to me is if I can have some time in the morning, like maybe it's when your kids go off to school and you have that hour, whenever it's quiet and you're not feeling like there's something out there, right? Because that's distracting. If you feel like there's something competing for your attention, you just have to have that clear head. And then figuring out, okay, what is my intention for today? And doing those breathing techniques.
I love that.
And then at the end of the night, my son's in school, and as a working mom, sometimes I feel like I don't spend enough time with him, and then we have that guilt. And so every night, I'll put him down to bed and we talk and we spend time together. Last night, instead of going straight to bed, we went on a walk and we went on a little troll hunt outside, and he put on his Flash costume and brought his sword. And I just I loved being present in the moment with him. And like, that's my purpose. Like, I know that he's my purpose. He is why I do all of it. And so I need to be present for him. Otherwise, none of it matters.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, I was trying so hard to do all the things, and I had to step back and strip away a lot of the things so that I could be in the moment with my kids, because I realized, as much as I would tell myself, like, I'm working for them, I'm doing this for them, but really I was not present for them. And so I said, okay, I need to really figure out the priorities. My kids need extra from me because they've been through so many traumatic things. Like, they need me. And so I had to just really step away. This is why I quit web design. And this is why I quit doing a lot of the things that I was doing, because it was taking too much of me and I needed to give that to them. So I'm so glad to see that you're doing that as well. It's so important.
It really is. And I know it's so easy for us. Oh, the dishes got to get done, and we've got to make the bed and do the laundry. And that stuff's always going to be there. And for some, I think we gravitate towards doing those things because we're just seeking that place of peace where you're not looking around and having everything be a total mess. But your kids, somehow they tell you what they need and they don't articulate it, but I can tell. And like, I don't need to do the dishes. Maybe he doesn't have to take a shower tonight. Maybe we just spend time together. And that's what fills him up. And you forget about that a lot. I mean, I know I do. So
yeah, it's so easy though, because like you said, we get caught up in all of the other things. So if someone wants to connect with you, another mom wants to, work with you or find you or sign up for these new things that you have going on, where can we find you online?
So my website is familyfinancial.biz, and there's a link to join the email list. And so I'll be launching my online course, and I'll have an ebook coming out as well. So you'll be the first to know if you sign up for the list.
Perfect. And then are you on socials at all or not so much?
Yes, I'm on all of them. So just type
What's
in
your favorite? What's your favorite one?
I really love Facebook. And I know from a marketing perspective, we're told it's not the best, but I think I like it the most because I incorporate a lot more of my personal life with the business stuff. And so I just feel more connected to people on that than maybe I would on LinkedIn, where it's all just, very professional.
Yeah, I think that a lot of moms and families are on Facebook, and that's probably why you feel more connected to it as well. And they can find you just by searching your name, Tammy Trenta
Tammy
on.
Trenta. Mhm.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Tammy. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Rita. It's been a pleasure, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
And there you have it. I want to encourage you to remember that being a mom who runs her own business is not easy. We all struggle, but just keep moving forward and don't forget to make time for yourself. As moms, we are usually the first thing to go to the bottom of the list. If your business is overwhelming you and you need real solutions, not just some sugar-coated suggestions, apply to work with me at ritasuzanne.com/apply.